Hey folks, Real Honesty with John Ritland. I'm John Ritland. This is the second part of my top 25 worst champions in wrestling history list, where basically I'm just going through some of the worst champions ever. Now I want to say Lex Luger is not going to be on here. A lot of you might be surprised by that, but he had some good U.S. title runs, including one that lasted over 500 days. He did have that one, WCW title run that lasted just a few days in '97. But he did have one that lasted about 7 months. I'm not a fan of Luger, but I will give credit where credit is due that at least as far as longevity, he was booked well. These are just some of the worst ones, whether they lasted only a few weeks, whether they lasted, forever, didn't really matter. They were just some of the worst ones. I already covered 25 through 15. Let's see where we go here. Some of these I have covered before, so I might skip past them after just a short rant. So anyway, I hope you enjoy. Number 14, Alberto El Patron is the WWE and the TNA, the GFW champion. As WWE champion, his reigns were too short. He had one reign for like a month. Then he had another reign for like a month and a half. It just didn't really work. They gave him a nice little couple of world title runs, but that was really about it. Well, especially that 2013 run. That worked pretty well for him. Other than that, there wasn't really anything to the guy. And then his, Impact Wrestling run, he was a unified champion for what, like a whole month? And then he got it stripped from him because of the whole airport incident with Paige, which turned out that both were culpable in the whole thing. Which, whatever. That's neither here nor there. Anytime he was given the ball, it just didn't seem to work. Like his world title run, he had 2 world title runs in 2012, 2013. Well, 2013 actually. It just never worked. He's never honestly worked. It just never seemed to catch fire. Which is sad because the guy's an incredible worker. The guy's a bit of a jerk. Okay, a big jerk. But he is an incredible worker. But yeah, his time just did not really work there. It just ultimately didn't. In WWE or in Impact Wrestling. Just as the guy, it just didn't work. Now, number 13, Ahmed Johnson is IC champion. The guy couldn't work. The guy couldn't get a goddamn promo. The guy injured people. The guy injured himself. He was champion for what, 50 days? Maybe 50 days, almost 60, and then he had to relinquish it due to injury, which I know he had kidney problems. And it's terrible he had those. But the guy was a shit worker, shit promo. And sorry, the fact that he was given the IC title, now look, at the time he was over. I get why at the time they gave it to him. But looking back on it, it was a terrible idea. Because the dumb fuck just could not work. He just couldn't. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't do anything. Couldn't cut a promo. He couldn't do any of this stuff. He was god-awful. And then we go to Jeff Jarrett as WCW champion. Jeff Jarrett was a mid-card worker at best. Even his TNA and NWA TNA run, as champion, maybe not the best. But at least with that, I understood why he was champion so much. Because he could rely on himself, because he had an investment in the company. It was like the old-time booker and stuff like that. You put the belt on yourself because you know you're not going to walk out. Now, yeah, he made himself champion a couple too many times. I get why he did there, though. In WCW, he was one of the worst WCW champions. Not the worst WCW champion. I get to those a little bit later. But he was pretty much trash. He was. He was a good IC champion. He was that. I will say that much. He was a good US champion. I will give him that much credit. But as the guy in WCW, no, it was a terrible idea because and I know why. It's because I guess he was friends with Vince Russo, which maybe that must have been it because he didn't become champion until Vince Russo came into power. Of course, then again, Jeff Jarrett actually didn't go back to WCW until a couple weeks after Russo had jumped ship, and he was only a U.S. champion at best in WCW before that. But regardless, it wouldn't have mattered who was booking. It wouldn't matter if it was Russo. It wouldn't matter if it was Bischoff. It wouldn't have mattered if it was Kevin Sullivan. Jeff Jarrett was just a crap champion. He was a crap world champion. He was not the chosen one. A horrible cowboy rip-off theme that they did for Jeff Jarrett. It was terrible. I mean, not that Kid Rock's music is any better, because Kid Rock is a homophobic piece of garbage. Isn't that a big shock? And anybody that votes Kid Rock for Senate, you're dooming your state. Stop dooming your state. Stop being stupid. But Jeff Jarrett's WCW champion was bad. It was really, really bad. Because I mean, nothing would have saved WCW at that point. Nothing would have. He, honest to God, he was one of the reasons why it didn't succeed. But he was also cast in a role, and he just wasn't capable of succeeding. He was good as a mid-card champion. That's it. Number 11, Jim Duggan as the U.S. champ and as the TV champion. I've covered both of these before. He was the U.S. champion by beating Steve Austin in Fall Brawl 94. He lost it to Vader a little bit later. Vader a little bit later. A rhyme and I didn't even plan it. So he only had the U.S. title for a few months. It was embarrassing to see him as U.S. champion because he was not. He should have never been champion in WWE, and I don't believe he was, or in WCW. He just never should have been champion. I mean, sure, he was over for a time, but there was no reason to give him the title. And then he was TV champion after finding it in the trash, after Scott Hall had thrown it away in the trash. And then Duggan was the was the janitor and cleaned up and found the belt there and declared himself television champion. Given where the lineage of that title goes to, goes all the way back, especially champions like Arn Anderson, William Regal, hell, even Johnny B. Bad was a pretty damn good TV champion. Steve Austin was a great TV champion. It was terrible. And it was embarrassing. And Jim Duggan, again, I'm not even going to knock Jim Duggan the person. He just shouldn't have been champion. He just shouldn't have been. Jim Duggan, from all accounts, seems like a very nice human being. The vast majority of people on this list, well, some of them, seem to be nice human beings. It's just, no. He should have never been TV and U.S. champion. He was absolute garbage. Number 10, and some might be surprised that this guy's this low on the list, but number 10, Adam Pac-Man Jones is the TNA Tag Champion. This was fucking atrocious. This was where crack started to show in the TNA rise. Even though to me, from even 04, but especially 05 to 09, TNA, Impact Wrestling, whatever you want to call it, even though it was TNA Wrestling at the time, consistently had better TV than WWE. That's not to say that WWE didn't have the bigger platform and stuff like that, but the talent seemed to be working harder in Impact Wrestling. They just couldn't get enough traction to get bigger ratings. And despite Vince Russo's booking, which I know he wasn't booking all of from 05 to 09, but he booked some of it. And it's no wonder. It's a wonder that the product didn't, improve way more with Jim Cornette as just the on-air authority figure. Oh, wait, it did, because Cornette actually lent credibility to it, even with all the great talent. But Pac-Man Jones as TNA Tag Champion, the guy shot up a strip club, a guy got paralyzed, he's suspended by the NFL. The Tennessee Titans, I believe at the time, put a no contact, clause there and said, no, you cannot touch him, you cannot do any of this stuff. You can't do any of this. So after becoming the tag team champions, knowing this, they made him the tag team champions anyway, I'm the tag team champions. They made him a tag team champion with Ron Killings. It is no wonder that Ron Killings left the company soon after this, because he had to be saddled with this guy. And Pac-Man might have actually been willing to do business. I don't know. I don't know how the talents, talk to him. I'm just a fan. I don't know all this stuff. I'm a smart fan. I like to think I'm a smart fan. But just looking at it from a fan's perspective on TV, this was trash. This was absolute trash. Adam Pac-Man Jones was a goddamn embarrassment to the wrestling business. And it could have worked if they hadn't done the no contact thing, but I get why Tennessee did that. I get why, even though he was suspended, they wanted to protect their asset. I get it. It was stupid of Impact Wrestling to bring him in still, knowing that they had that no contact thing. So he had to do that, and then at Bound for Glory when they lost the titles and were Consequences Creed. Fun fact, Xavier Woods, pretty damn good talent. I mean, despite all the goofiness they gave him, Xavier Woods is just, great. He was great as Creed. He's great in WWE as Woods. He really had to fight and claw with a lot of the shit booking he got in Impact Wrestling. And I'm not saying all his booking in WWE has been all that great. And okay, the whole sex tape thing didn't necessarily help. Even though it's a private matter between people, even though they filmed it. But having to sub for Pac-Man Jones and then Pac-Man Jones throwing money into the ring, throwing money when he had to make it rain to distract people, it was crap. This was such crap. I mean, and since he couldn't have any contact with anybody, they would have made Killings eat the pin. So it was bad. It was just bad all around. And him as tag champion, that was an embarrassment to the TNA tag division, which was stellar at that point and still improved for a number of years, until everything got really muddled in 2010, which was the year that Hogan came in. Imagine that. Hogan not working well with other talents and burying them. Of course, he might have not worked well with Ron Killings because he doesn't like people like Ron Killings because he's racist. Not Ron Killings, Hogan, I mean. Ron Killings seems fine. Anyway, Pac-Man Jones was an embarrassment. And then we move on to the Knockouts Tag Team Championship. Remember that? Short-lived and in retrospect, a bad idea looking back on it. Clearly it was a good idea at first because they had enough depth in the Knockouts division. But they were starting to not use the women all that well when they introduced the tag team belts. And I like ODB. I think ODB's good. I think she's very underrated. I like Eric Young. Eric Young did great in Impact Wrestling for a number of years, well over a decade, and is doing great in NXT now. And belongs there, despite what anybody might say. Oh, he belongs in Impact Wrestling. Well, he felt he didn't, and he wanted to explore his options, and WWE's using him well. He'll never be a world champion. He doesn't need to be. But he's a damn good talent. That Sandy gimmick is working really well. But Eric Young and ODB as the Knockouts Tag Team Champions, no. This was embarrassing. And they were champions for, over a year before the belts got, vacated or retired or stuff like that. It was embarrassing. And Eric Young had to put up with a lot of shit in Impact Wrestling. Yeah, they finally gave him the world title run. Right after another bearded guy got the world title. It was just... It's not Eric Young's fault. It's the booking committee's fault, or the bookers. It's not Eric Young's fault. Eric Young's a very hard worker, and I was happy to see him win the world title. It's just funny how it happened, how he had to do 2 matches to win it. But whatever. Just still, them as a man as a Knockouts Tag Team Champion, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. This is no knock against Eric Young. It was just stupid booking. It was really bad booking. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Number 8, Steve Mongo McMichael is the U.S. champion. Duggan was bad. Mongo was worse. Duggan at least had years in the business, and you could understand maybe why he would have gotten the title, even though I necessarily don't think he should have. At least he had years in the business and paid his dues and this kind of stuff. What the fuck did Mongo ever do? Oh yeah, he was a Super Bowl winning NFL player. Congratulations. It was really impressive that he actually even had a brain left after playing in the NFL in the 80s. And sure, he appeared on WWF TV in Lawrence Taylor's Posse and stuff like that at WrestleMania 11, which was shit. This was an embarrassment. Him as U.S. champion was really, really bad. And by the way, I'm sorry. I hope my voice holds up. My voice is bothering me. I ain't got any other time to shoot this show, so I just hope you guys enjoy this. Because these rants might get a little bit more vicious. In fact, be right back. Short break, folks, and now we are back. Steve Mongo McMichael, though, was an embarrassment. He was an embarrassment. The commentary is an embarrassment to wrestling. He's an embarrassment to that U.S. championship. He's a garbage worker. I don't know if he's a garbage human being, but he's a garbage worker, garbage talker. The guy could have nearly ended careers with how he botched the tombstone pile driver, the variations of the tombstone pile driver in some moves. He didn't look like he knew what he was goddamn doing. It was bad. And the fact that he was given a championship and other guys were never given a championship during their run, pretty embarrassing. The fact that some of the cruiserweight talents were never given a run with the U.S. title. Now, I believe Eddie and Dean got runs with the U.S. title. I know for certain Dean did. I think Dean and Eddie feud over it. But the whole point of it is, they deserved it. Steve Mongo McMichael did not deserve it. And I'm embarrassed that he was ever part of the wrestling business. Granted, he did provide, people with a lot of wrestle crap moments because he didn't know what he was doing. And his commentary, he always got exposed by Bobby Heenan for being trash. Bobby Heenan could expose anybody and make him look like trash, though. So anyway, let's move on to number 7. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I don't. I mean, I appreciate you guys for watching, but if you guys got a problem with it, too bad. Enzo Amore. The second worst cruiserweight champion of all time. Second. And I'm going to say second. Because Enzo, look, if any of the backstage heat is true and people can't really stand him, then this must be a rib on the entire cruiserweight division. And I'm recording this Saturday, the 7th of October. So if this will go up before TLC, I will say that much. But if you guys are watching this after TLC, and if they have Enzo lose to Kalisto, if they decide to do that match at TLC, then it will be a blessing in disguise, even if I don't really care for Kalisto. I hate this. I hate this because it's trash. Oh, it's getting ratings up for 205 Lives doing this kind of stuff. WWE put the cruiserweights in that position with 205 Live by putting it on when they did, not putting it on before SmackDown or filming it before SmackDown and then having people watch it afterwards. Okay, so it wouldn't exactly be live. The Cruiserweight Classic wasn't live. People tuned in record numbers for that. Granted, that was in Full Sail. But just whether this would have happened had Big Cass not gotten injured is irrelevant. It's just bad. It's just bad. And I'm not as angry about it as I was at No Mercy and at Raw the next night. I do hate it. And I do hope that somebody, kayfabe, takes out Enzo. Because I don't legit want any, unless it's Luger, because I hate Luger. And I won't hide that. Or unless it's another person on this list that I'll get to in a bit. Enzo just is like a gnat that needs to be swatted down. And guess what? If it's Kalisto, then maybe Kalisto beats him. If Kalisto doesn't beat him, maybe they call up Hideo Itami. They haven't used Hideo Itami on TV, so you could have Hideo come out and just beat up Enzo in about 2 minutes, kick the crap out of him, GTS him about 3 times, and then, pin him, and then GTS him 3 more times, and then you could take Enzo out on a stretcher, kayfabe, because I legit don't want Enzo injured. This is the only benefit is it's giving the fans, the fans that actually appreciate good, cruiserweight action and good wrestling. It's giving us somebody to root against. But I've done a complete 180 on Enzo pretty much in the last few months, especially since his feud with Big Cass started. And actually, it was before that when Enzo got knocked out. I'm starting to think, knocked out. I'm starting to it's like, I remember first saying, it's going to be Big Cass. That's who it's going to be. But Enzo's just trash. Just trash. And yeah, he deserves to be on this list because he's the second worst cruiserweight champion of all time. But who's going to be the worst? Now, I'm going to try to go the distance here. I can go about 33 minutes on this rant. So I got 14 minutes basically to cover the last 6. Jinder Mahal, WWE champion. He's trying, but he's not any good. He's just not. I said as much on my reviews of SmackDown, and my SmackDown pay-per-view reviews, and the SummerSlam pay-per-view review that I did with the Durbinator, my best friend Chris. Jinder just isn't any good. He's not worth it. If they had done it with the U.S. title and built it up, okay. It still wouldn't have worked, in my opinion, because Jinder's still not good. But at least it would have worked a little bit better than this. the experiment's not working. I don't know if the numbers in India are that much better. I don't think they are, but from what I've heard, and from what a lot of people are saying, a lot of people, it's like I've even asked a few people I know that live in India that actually speak decent enough English, and they say they can't stand him. Now, Jinder doesn't strike me as a bad guy. He seems like he's trying, but creative is giving him nothing. They're getting nothing. And Jinder's just trash. Jinder, honest to God, is just trash. As a WWE champion. The character. I don't mean the man himself. But he is trash. Like, this title reign is a joke. And I'm recording this, of course, before Hell in a Cell. Even if, so just saying, even if Nakamura happens to beat him, Jinder's still going to go down as the worst WWE champion ever. Because he's just, it was too soon. They didn't know what they were doing. They thought they could light a spark underneath, a fire underneath everybody for SmackDown, and all they did was create the worst amount of buzz. The absolute worst amount of buzz that they could have. So anyway, actually guys, I'm going to leave the top 5 for another show. Because I realize I've run a little long here. And the top 5 in particular are going to be, it's going to be a little spicy. But anyway, guys, thank you guys and girls so much for watching this. Do you agree? Do you disagree so far with what I said? What are some champions you would put on this list? What are some champions you would put on your own list? 1, I would encourage you to make your own show. But 2, leave them in the comments if you would like. Like, share, subscribe. Also, it's been Real Honesty with John Ritland. I'm John Ritland. I will see you soon.